Hey everyone, James Niggemeyer here. Thank you for tuning back into the YouTube channel. Today I'd like to share with you my top 3 baits for fishing offshore. Now I know we're getting close to August and we've probably missed a good portion of the offshore fishing with this video, but you know, the reality is people are going to catch them offshore from August all the way through November. There's always going to be a population of fish out there that are roaming around chasing that bait and setting up on structure, which is where a lot of these type of applications, or these top 3 baits, in my opinion, they're just the ones that are the most fun. When it comes to fishing offshore structure, these 3 baits, to me, they're just so much fun. Working them around that offshore structure, offshore humps, points, ridges, roadbeds, around brush piles, all that type of stuff that you'd find, say, traditionally offshore fishing 12 to, I mean, I've caught them out to 40 on Lake Fork, but I'm saying 12 to 32 is basically that zone where I'm going to be applying these 3 techniques. Hey, if you get anything out of this channel, please consider subscribing. It's probably one of the better ways to help grow the channel, and I'd certainly appreciate it. So number 1, my absolute favorite way to catch them offshore, I mean, and really, it's kind of a toss-up between 2 different things, but I would say I really like to catch them throwing a big worm, like a 10 or 12-inch ribbon tail style worm. And that, you know, clumps right in with, you know, like a big straight tail style worm, like this Yamamoto Okie Worm. I believe this is like a 10.5-inch worm. Also, Yamamoto has a big tail, you know, a big worm as well. That's a curly tail, ribbon tail style worm. I just don't have it with me. I happen to have this one that is easily accessible. But this Okie Worm rigged on a Buckeye spot remover, wide gap version like this, because this is a floating material, you can get this thing to stand up when you rig it together like that. You could rig it up and fish it on a jig head. But you could also fish this straight tail style worm on a traditional Texas rig. And what I'm going to typically do, either with the straight tail worm or a curly tail or ribbon tail style worm like this, is I'm going to rig it on, say, anywhere from 3/8 to 3/4, depending upon how deep I'm fishing, or how heavy or how sticky the cover is. Like if I'm getting hung up a lot, I'll lighten up. But also, I want to pay attention to how well they bite it once it hits the bottom initially, really quick. Because sometimes that heavier weight on a big plastic like this is going to get a reaction strike. Once it hits the bottom, it's that thing is just shooting to the bottom, and that movement will draw fish to it. And sometimes those heavier weights are going to be fantastic for drawing an initial descent, initial approach to the bottom. When it hits the bottom, you can get a bite pretty quick. Sometimes that also helps when you have a cluster or a group, or even what people like to call a mega school of fish on an offshore piece of cover. So when you have those scenarios where you are actually, you know, fishing around groups of fish, that competitive nature with something streaking to the bottom will get bites. It'll basically get reaction bites. But if you don't catch them like that, then it's the dragging it around, whether it's on a big Texas rig setup or on a big shaky head. Either way is good. And that one actually comes in quarter, I think 3/8 and half. So one thing you have to kind of remember with these 2 types of baits is that the straight tail worm, obviously with less drag, is going to fall faster with lighter weight than with a ribbon tail style worm, because a ribbon tail style worm, you know, have a slower rate of fall as it goes to the bottom. So some of the things to take into consideration, you could probably, you know, lighten up with a straight tail and heavier with the curly tail. Traditionally fished this on like 14-pound test and higher, 14, 16, and maybe even 20-pound test. But I think like 14 and 16 gamma edge fluorocarbon, when paired with, you know, a 3/8 half-ounce bullet weight or a stand-up style shaky head, and then I'm going to go ahead and put that on like a 7.2 or 7.3 medium heavy rod. I like a little bit lighter rod with the plastic because I want to be able to feel that bottom contour and drag it and hit stuff like that. So number one, a Texas rig worm is probably going to be my favorite just because that's kind of how I cut my teeth on the West Coast. We fished a lot of Texas rig hand-poured worms, and I love fishing a Texas rig worm on offshore places like this Yamamoto Okie worm or that Yamamoto Ichi worm, which is a curly tail version of this longer, larger, bigger worm like that. So big worms, offshore, summertime, that's probably my favorite. But a close second, got to be a football jig. I love fishing a football jig. And honestly, it's kind of funny. There are times when they will eat a football jig better than the worm and vice versa. You know, when it comes to the football jig, I'm going to just go with a 3/4 ounce, and I want to pair it with something like a big crawl, like a Yama crawl like this. I'm going to rig that on the back here, thread it on, and to get it up over that, that little keeper right there to hold it on there. Sometimes you might want to super glue it, but it's a bigger, bulkier package, has, you know, more of a, you know, a bigger, wider presence, where this has more of a slender profile, a bigger, more, you know, bushier package with the football jig. And there's times when I just feel like that type of profile, whether it's like more crawfish or bluegill related, I don't know, but generally they're going to be 1 and 2 or 2 and 1. It's just these are my two favorites for fishing offshore. I'll probably fish the same type of rod, reel, line setup on the football jig. And the thing about the football jig that's really cool is I feel like it really stirs up the bottom. Again, has that bushier, more pronounced footprint, if you will, or silhouette in the water. And there's just times when they want one or the other a little bit better, or there's times when the bigger ones will eat the football jig, and vice versa. So 1 and 2, football jig, Texas rig worm. And lastly, this might surprise some of you, but one of my other favorite ways to catch them is on a big spoon. The big spoon is a lot of fun because there's times when you could see them out there on the graph, or you could graph over an area and know that there's fish there, and you know that you know you've tried the football jig, you've tried the worm, and you don't get any bites, and you fire this out there, and as it, you know, falls to the bottom, these spoons have an incredible ability to draw a reaction strike. And I think that's because every time you rip it up off the bottom, it's going to fall a little differently. That directional change will get those fish fired up. Sometimes I'll go ahead and put a feathered or a Flashaboo type tinsel on the back here. I'll tie it on a fly tying vise. And same type of gear, 7.2 to 7.4 rod, medium heavy, Phoenix rod. And then, you know, sometimes I'll put a little bearing swivel here so that I'm not getting near as much of line twist on the fall. And, you know, some guys will put a stinger hook up here and then down here, so if a fish hits it head first, you get them that way as well. I've just generally fished the one big treble back there, usually swap it out with like an owner hook, and again with some mylar or Flashaboo or some sort of maybe a little bit of feather on there, some sort of accent. As far as colors go on this stuff, I'm gonna say, you know, your green gizzards, your sexy shads, your chrome blues, those baitfish ones, this is probably my favorite. I failed to go over colors on the big worms, and generally in this part of the country it's blue flake, plum, off-colored water or overcast days I go with June bug. Those are the colors that I generally really like. And then a PB&J on the football jig, and I'll go tone on tone, or a green pumpkin. I mean, there's times when you can go on a black and blue, but those are my top 3 favorite ways to catch them offshore. I mean, there's times when you go with the Carolina rig, or if they won't eat that, maybe the drop shot, you can scale down and go finesse, different things like that. Hey, I certainly appreciate you watching this video. If you got anything out of this, please give me a thumbs up and drop a comment down below. Boy, it's been hot. Hopefully you guys are staying cool as much as you can, maybe fishing early and fishing late and getting out of the heat during the middle of the day. Make sure you go over to my description section. There you'll find links to my merch, Facebook, Instagram, website, and a discount code for Amphibia Eye Gear. Check those out. They're floating ANSI rated sunglasses. This is a patented technology floating air cell. And then these are ANSI rated lenses, so they protect your eyes. If something comes by and hits you in the eye, they're not going to shatter and cause more eye damage. Until next time, thanks for watching and good fishing.